So Kerry said that she wanted to just have a week where we were apart and we didn't speak to one another. Well, I didn't really know how to facilitate that, and I went ahead and rented one of those extended stay hotels so I could spend a week there and honor Kerry's wishes to be able to have us be apart. I got to tell you, that time was some of the most depressing and just visceral experiences I've ever had. Being in that, smelling other desperation, being in a place that is a one-room, kitchen, bathroom, sleeping quarters. I couldn't eat. I couldn't really sleep well. There wasn't much I could do at all. I went to work, but I was a zombie. I wasn't really doing anything profitable there. And I just remember thinking, I don't know how to fix this. I don't know where we go from here. And I think it was in that desperation that I was able to finally understand and be open to what the Lord had for me. And I just remember sitting there wondering what that next step was. And the Lord just dumped buckets of visions, memories into my brain. However, this time, instead of me seeing myself and the responses how I felt and heard them, I heard them from Kerry's point of view, and I understood how my words hurt, and how what I was saying was slowly just eating away at her ability to trust me, her ability to feel good about herself. I realized the part that I was playing and just how horrible of a person that I was. I felt this sense of just disgust for myself. These visions played out, and I just remember writing down in a notebook specifically instances of what the Lord was telling me in this situation, what you did, this is how she felt. And I just began to write them all out. And I knew that I needed to share this with Kerry, and I wanted them to be something that I could refer back to. And so just wrote them all, and then I waited for that time for us to get together. I honored the entire week, even though I so desperately wanted to see her, wanted to talk with her. I wanted to respect the space that she asked for. So the week was up, and we had a meeting at a family member's house, and we were sitting on that couch, and I just remember excited to share all those situations that the Lord had just brought to my mind in my notebook, and I read them, each one of them to her. And I could tell by the look on her face that it was words that she had wanted to hear for a very long time. And once I was done, I was just anxiously waiting her response, thinking that this was going to be the step that would lead us into reconciliation. And she said that she was appreciative to hear those words, and those were the things that she'd been wanting to hear all these years, but that she felt it was a little too late. And so my excitement or anticipation turned into sadness because I didn't know where to go from there. I admitted my wrong, and I wanted to move forward, but I had waited too long. She was already at a stage where she just didn't really want to be around me or maybe even like me, let alone be my wife. So we went back to the house we were living at, except for we lived in separate rooms then. And I just remember I want to take each encounter with her and make that an opportunity to show her how much I think and care about her. And she had made reference to me not knowing who she is as a person, and I was trying to figure out, who is she as a person? So I remember taking opportunities of, well, what's your favorite flower? And what do you like to do? And just trying to find out those little things. And she would tell them to me, and my memory's not always the greatest, so I would just say them over and over in my mind. Oh, she likes the yellow roses, and she likes magazine subscriptions. And I was just trying to file all this away and say it over and over until our encounter was over, and then I could rush off to my part of the house and write them down so that I wouldn't forget them. And figure out later how I would incorporate those into additional encounters with her. And I just spent my time, as much time as we would have together in that house, figuring out how could I show her how much I care about her and that I want to move forward and that I'm changing.
At the end of April, I moved out of the house. I appreciated Doug's apologies, but it was just too little too late. And I said that I needed out of the house and found an apartment on my own. The house, again, it was under construction and had been for over 2.5 years, just in that frozen state with a lot of things just not even finished. And so it was just such a source of frustration that I just knew I wanted out. It didn't have anything to do with, I wasn't saying yes or no to the marriage, but I just needed out of the house. So I moved out and got my own apartment. During the month of May, Doug found a counselor and saw the counselor once on his own and then asked if I would go on my own as well. And I agreed, mostly because I was stubborn enough that I didn't want the marriage to be over solely because I said no to counseling. I was just waiting for Doug to realize that it was over. I was waiting for the counselor to say, this is the worst situation I've ever seen, so you two should not be together. Something along those lines is what I was waiting for. And so I agreed to see the counselor on my own and then agreed to joint counseling as well. Again, because I was just waiting for them to understand the situation and the hurt and the depth of hurt. So we had a joint counseling session, and the counselor asked us to agree to a period of time where we would work on our marriage and not involve a divorce attorney. They were both looking at me, and so I just threw out the first number that came to mind, and I said 6 months. Well, they didn't know that I had already contacted an attorney and was told by that person that he wasn't accepting any new clients. So that was thankfully a divine interruption, and who knows what would have happened if that conversation, that phone call had gone differently. So the middle of May, I'm living on my own and just waiting to be able to leave my husband. I loved our daughter and would have loved to have seen our marriage work, but I was just convinced that it just wasn't going to work. About this same time, I was living on my own and went outside one morning to go to work, and my car had been broken into. And I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I was scared, and so I called Doug, partly out of habit. I knew that he would know who to call, just the process, what to do next, because I didn't know. And that was one of the first times that I can remember just really feeling protected and cared for by my husband, and feeling so grateful because he didn't remind me that we were separated. He didn't remind me of what I had done. He didn't say, well, you're gonna thank me for this later. He just made me feel safe and took care of the situation. And I really started to develop and see a new friendship with him. By the end of May, we'd had a few joint sessions with the counselor, and I was starting to feel some affection for my husband. It was something new. I hadn't had this caring, love, concern for him probably ever. And looking back now, I can see that the Lord was building a new relationship and was healing the hurts faster than I could have imagined. The love that we were experiencing that was being built was new. It was better than it was before. It was definitely a transformation. It was something new. It was something better. And it was the Lord building it and creating it instead of us, because if we had done it, it would have been by human hands, and there would have been a history, and there would have been just floods of memories every time we would do something that we had done before. So we were on the same page and agreeing that we were going to move forward with our marriage.
It was just an incredible outpouring of God's love at every turn, because when we would sell things that were precious to us, wedding gifts that you think you're going to hold on to, and then you just have to let them go because they're things, and we were fighting for our lives, our marriage lives, our individual lives, our identity with Christ, and how we felt about ourselves. And so we just gave it all, and we said, Lord, just use whatever you can. And I just remember there were situations where we would have bills come in, and it would be for a certain amount of money, and we had just sold something, and it was just the right amount of money that we needed at that time, because again, we didn't have anything. How were we going to get rid of the burden of this house, this weight? But the Lord was faithful. And if I would have listened to a number of people who told me, Doug, this is over. You have every right to divorce. We wouldn't have had the reconciliation. We wouldn't have had the restoration. And God is so jealous for restoration in marriage. He's just waiting to bless marriages. And if we would have taken just the stance of, I feel this way, I'm owed this, I'm due this, and if we both didn't completely surrender ourselves to the Lord, we wouldn't be able to experience this powerful transformation in our life. And He took these heavy burdens and just lifted them. And even today, I sometimes can't believe all the things that we went through and came out on the other side so much healthier. Having 4 kids now, just loving the Lord more and each other, I cherish my wife. I love her so deeply. There is nothing that I wouldn't do for her. I want to sacrifice for her every day, not because of anything that she's done, but because it's what God's asked me to do, and I proudly would do it because she's worth it. I just love her.